Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Some volume from here. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Is it better now? Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we're continuing our discussion on the Bhagavad-Gita, how we are trying to trace Krishna's message of love in the Bhagavad-Gita. So we'll discuss mainly the Chaturshloki Gita today. Let's decide, we'll decide 10.10 and then we'll discuss the 4 verses. Okay. Tesham satatayuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam dadami buddhiyogam tam yena mamupayanti te. Tesham satatayuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam dadami buddhiyogam tam yena mamupayanti te. Tesham satatayuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam dadami buddhiyogam tam yena mamupayanti te. So we all know the verse, so let us recite it together once, one final time, all of us together. Tesham satatayuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam dadami buddhiyogam tam yena mamupayanti te. Word-for-word translations. Tesham, unto them. Satatayuktana, always engaged. Bhajatam, in rendering devotional service. Priti Purvakam, in loving ecstasy. Dadami, I give. Buddhi Yogam, real intelligence. Come, that. Yena, by which. Unto me. Sorry. Mam, unto me. Upayanti, come. Te, they. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation. To those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they come to me. Purport. In this verse, the word Buddhi Yogam is very significant. We may remember that in the 2nd chapter, the Lord instructing Arjuna said that he has spoken to him of many things and that he would instruct him in the way of Buddhi Yoga. Now Buddhi Yoga is explained. Buddhi Yoga itself is action in Krishna consciousness, that is the highest intelligence. Buddhi means intelligence and yoga means mystic activities or mystic elevation. When one tries to go back home, back to Godhead, and takes fully to Krishna consciousness and devotional service, his action is called Buddhi Yoga. In other words, Buddhi Yoga is the process by which one gets out of the entanglement of the material world. The ultimate goal of progress is Krishna. People do not know this, therefore the association of devotees and a bona fide spiritual master are important. One should know that the goal is Krishna, and when the goal is assigned, then the path is slowly but progressively traversed, and the ultimate goal is achieved. When a person knows the goal of life, but is addicted to the fruits of activities, he is acting in karma yoga. When he knows that the goal is Krishna, but he takes pleasure in mental speculations to understand Krishna, he's acting in Jnana Yoga. And when he knows the goal and seeks Krishna completely in Krishna consciousness and devotional service, he is acting in Bhakti Yoga, or Buddhi Yoga, which is the complete yoga. This complete yoga is the highest perfectional stage of life. A person may have a bona fide spiritual master and may be attached to a spiritual organization, but if he's still not intelligent enough to make progress, then Krishna from within gives him instructions so that he may ultimately come to him without difficulty. The qualification is that a person always engage himself in Krishna consciousness and with love and devotion render all kinds of service. He should perform some sort of work for Krishna, and that work should be with love. If a devotee is not intelligent enough to make progress in the path of self-realization, but is sincere and devoted to the activities of devotional service, the Lord gives him a chance to make progress and ultimately attain to him. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanishalaakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Thank you for coming today morning. And we continue our discussion on tracing Krishna's message of love in the Bhagavad-Gita. The Bhagavad-Gita is a book of philosophy. We discussed how Gita is giving a philosophical analysis about Dharma. Dharma is the right thing to do. Definitely the philosophy. It's not that's what I had done it like that. Okay, is this better now? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Okay. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So the Bhagavad Gita at one level is definitely a philosophical analysis about dharma. Simultaneously, it is also Krishna's message of love. Krishna cares for Arjuna very deeply. They have a relationship that goes for a long time. And based on that relationship, they are now on the battlefield. And when Arjuna is distressed, naturally, Krishna will want to calm Arjuna, console Arjuna, solace and strengthen Arjuna. And that is the purpose of the Gita. So, yesterday we discussed how Ma Shuchaha and Shucha, the first and the last instructive words of the Gita, indicate that Krishna is like a doctor who is calming a patient who is very agitated. Don't be so agitated. It's not that serious. And then we also discussed two further verses. We discussed how education involves enlightenment and encouragement. That's what Krishna offers in 640. And then 641 and 45. And the next verse we discussed was how Krishna is so eager for our love that even if we come to him with a material motive, a self-centered motive, still Krishna wants us to connect with him. So that was Udara. And then the journey from Udara to Mahaprabhu. So now today we'll focus on the 10th chapter of the Bhagavadgita. So essentially, in the 10th chapter, there are actually total 42 verses. And we are here from 8 to 11. This Ramanacharya and subsequent acharyas have recognized Chatushloka Gita. That there are 4 verses which are considered a summary of the Gita, the sar, the essence of the Gita. Now, why might they be considered to be the essence? That, so if we want to say this is the essence, then what is the sense by which they can say that they are the essence? Isn't it? Just because some acharyas said, of course we respect the acharyas, but the acharyas don't make arbitrary statements. If they are saying that this is the essence, so why are they saying so? To understand this, let's look at the structure of the Gita. The Gita does not begin or progress as a planned class, isn't it? It is not that Krishna comes with a lesson plan and learning objectives. Yes, now those can be implicit, but it is Arjuna is confused and Krishna is guiding Arjuna. So Krishna does not actually go about technically analyzing various parts. His primary purpose is to guide Arjuna. And as he is guiding Arjuna, some of the audio is not as good as yesterday, isn't it? Just connect this remote directly. But that audio is the online. This audio road is going to online. No, it's recording. Recording. Is it better now? It seems to be. Okay. So now, when we look at the structure of the Gita is like an organic. Organic means it's a natural conversation. So when it is a natural conversation, as issues come up, they are discussion. Now, if we consider after this 11th verse, then from the 12th verse onwards, Arjuna speaks. And in many ways, what Arjuna speaks is like the conclusion of the Gita.
It's almost as if the class is over and Arjuna is saying Param Brahma Param Dhama Pavitram Paramam Bhavan. So he's saying that I accept that you are the supreme reality. Sarvameta manye. I accept everything that you say. So especially 12, 13 and 14. These basically suggest that Arjuna is enlightened. He's accepted Krishna to be the ultimate reality. He's accepted Krishna's words as the complete authority. What more is there for enlightenment? So in that sense, these 4 verses are like the final verses of the Gita. Now, if you consider the Gita structure, 2.7 is the key question of the Gita. Pruchhami tvam dharma sammudha chetaha. The question is about dharma. And we could say that the whole Gita as a conversation, it goes on, it ends in 1873 when Arjuna says, Nashto moha smriti labdha, that my illusion is dispelled. And Arjuna's question was about dharma. What is the right thing to do? Arjuna answers that Karishe Vachanam Tava. The right thing to do is actually to do God's will. I will do your will. So we could say this is the broad structure of the Gita. At the same time, we can say that the Gita also more or less ends by 10:14. So the key question that Arjuna has, what happens is there are questions that keep coming. So for example, 254 Arjuna asks a question. Sita pragyasya ka bhasha, and that question is answered till 272. That particular section is the Sita pragya section. Similarly, 336 Arjuna asks a question. What is it that makes us act self-destructively? Atakena prayukto yam papam charati purusha. Now that is answered till 343. So like sometimes a class is going on and within the class, somebody asks a question and those questions are answered. And then after the class is over, then there are miscellaneous questions. So in general, if you look at the flow of the Gita, the questions that Arjuna is asking till the Chaturshloki Gita, they logically link back to the previous points that Krishna has spoken. But many of the questions thereafter, Arjuna asks about the Vishwarupa, or Arjuna asks about the impersonal person. And especially 13th chapter, Arjuna asks about Purusha, Prakriti, Jnana, Gyeya. So that is actually very difficult to link back to anything previously that Krishna has spoken. In fact, Krishna has not even used the word Kshetra and Kshetragya. And suddenly Arjuna is asking about Kshetra and Kshetragya. Now, why is he asking that? It's not that Krishna could have said, hey, Arjuna, the battlefield is not the place to expand your vocabulary. Why are you just asking me questions about terms? But the point is that if you want to see what Krishna has done is, Krishna has given a majestic worldview to Arjuna. This is what Krishna has given to Arjuna. Now, Arjuna, if we consider from Arjuna's perspective, he is not spiritually ignorant. He also lived in a spiritual culture where he had also learned a lot of spirituality. So Arjuna, he has some previous spiritual knowledge. So basically, he is asking questions based on his previous spiritual knowledge. Okay, how does this fit into what you told me? I've heard that the impersonal is also important. How does that fit in? I've heard about Sankhya, which has all these terms. How does that fit in? So basically, you could say Arjuna has various conceptions. He has not exact conceptions. This previous knowledge, Arjuna's questions are about how does it all fit in? So the questions from chapter 10 onward, we can try to find a flow from the one question to the next question, from one chapter to the next chapter. But it's like after a class, when people ask questions, there need not be a flow between the question asked by the first question and the second question. Even if we say the same person asks 5 questions, still it is not that the second question has to naturally follow after the first question. They could be two unrelated questions. They are related overall to the subject. So now the flow of the Gita is complex and different acharyas have analyzed in different ways. I am explaining to you based on how I find this flow most naturally flowing through. So the point is that more or less at the 10th chapter, the Gita is over. Arjuna has accepted that Krishna is the Supreme Lord. In fact, if you see at the start of the 11th chapter, 11.1 to 4, Arjuna speaks. And what he speaks over there is actually very similar to what he speaks in 1873. Nashto moha smritir labdha, he says. That at the start of the 11th chapter, Arjuna says, Yat tvayoktam vachastena mohoyam vigato mama. Nashto moha vigata. My moha is gone. Madanugrahaya paramam guhyamadhyatma sangitam. Mad anugrahaya paramam. You have had anugraha. What does anugraha mean? What? Anugraha? Mercy. Isn't it? And then similarly, tat prasadan mayachyuta. So same theme. Here there is moha vigata. And here there is nashto moha. So same it is. Then similarly, mad anugraha. You have had mercy on me. And here is tvat prasadat. So essentially, Arjuna is more or less enlightened by the 10th chapter. The subsequent questions are more of miscellaneous to get clearer understanding. It's not that these are, when I say miscellaneous, that doesn't mean they're unimportant. Every part of the Gita is important. But from a structural perspective, these four verses, 10, 8 to 11, lead Arjuna to what is the key conclusion of the Bhagavad Gita. That is Param Brahma Param Dham. So in that sense, these four verses can be said to be the verses that brought Arjuna to that conclusion. And therefore, they are of vital importance. There are many other ways we can analyze why they are of such vital importance. But this is one way of looking at it. That the Chaturshloki, what happens to the Chaturshloki is Arjuna is led to the highest conclusion. That is, so that's why these are important. Now, with this background, let's look at these four verses. So I will explain the flow of these four verses in a particular way. As I said, each of these verses, we can go into analyzing them in many different ways. But we are trying to understand how Krishna's heart is being revealed for Arjuna. How Krishna is consoling, encouraging, enlightening Arjuna through the Gita. So from that perspective, these four verses, they have a particular flow. The first verse talks about attraction. We are all attracted to something or the other in the world. If we want to know what is dharma, if we want to do the right thing, we need to be attracted to the right object. If somebody is attracted to money as the most important thing, then they can't really act honestly all the time. Right? If money is the most important thing for them, then what reason is there? So the first verse is about attraction. We'll look at these verses one by one. But let's look at a meta picture right now. Now, attraction is not a static state. That today I may be attracted to something, tomorrow I might get attracted to something else. So if attraction is to be sustained, we need association. So that is what the next verse talks about. Now, even when we are attracted to Krishna, even when we have association of Krishna's devotees, still life is tough. Still we will face difficulties in life. And at that time, what we need to have is appreciation. Appreciation that Krishna is our well-wisher. We'll talk about what it means. That Krishna wants our best. Even when bad things are happening in our life, Krishna wants our good. We need to have that appreciation. And then when we have that appreciation, Krishna says, I will give you absorption. So when we are absorbed in Krishna, when we are absorbed in Krishna, then we can face even the toughest of difficulties in life. So in this way, these four verses can be seen as guiding principles for life. After all, when we say life, uh, I want some guidance for life. What do we mean? Ultimately, we don't need guidance. Okay, after waking up, you have to brush your teeth and you have to take a bath. When you talk about guidance, it means guidance is primarily for decision making. When there are difficult things to decide, how do we decide those things? So that means essentially it is decision making. So we will see how Arjuna has to make a difficult decision. And generally, if somebody has to make a difficult decision, somebody says, okay, I don't know what career I should choose. No, should I go into this field or that field? Should I take this job or that job? Should I marry this person or that person? Should I stay in this place or that place? Life has so many decisions to make. And when somebody has to make decisions, one approach could be like a hands-off approach. Whatever job you take, I will always care for you. Hell, okay, that's nice. But if you care for me, please give me some guidance. How should I decide what job should take? Isn't it? So Krishna is guiding Arjuna to take good decisions. Arjuna has to decide whether I should fight or not. And it's a very difficult decision to make. We may say that, oh, what is difficult? You are a warrior, you should fight. It's not that simple. Because Arjuna had to fight against his relatives, against Bhishma and Drona. That was not at all easy. See, generally, when you talk about problems in life, I will talk about problems a little bit later in the next session also. But there can be many different kinds of problems. One is adversity. Has any of you heard this word adversity? Well, you may not have heard about the word adversity, but you have experienced adversity. Isn't it? Who has lived through life and not had severe difficulties? Adversity is a very severe difficulty, isn't it? So now there's another word, atrocity. Has anyone heard this word? Atrocity. Okay. Do you think there's a difference between adversity and atrocity? What is it? So, yes, adversity we could say is natural. You know, say if there is a flood, that is adversity. But if some terrorists blow up a dam and then there is a flood, that is a atrocity. So atrocity is intentional. So adversity is something bad happens to us. Atrocity is something bad is done to us by someone. Which is more difficult to bear? Atrocity. Because why would you do like this? It's very difficult to bear. But actually, there is something even more difficult. And that you can use the word agony. Here, basically, bad things happen. But what is most difficult, especially for a responsible person, is when bad things have to be done. When a good person is put in a situation where they have no good choices, every choice will have some bad consequence. And at that time, what should you do? Suppose there's a pandemic and there are two serious patients and there's only one oxygen cylinder. If you give it to one person, the other person is going to die. And say both are serious. So it could happen that you give it to one person, that person still dies. And the other person also dies. So for a responsible person, when they have to make a decision where there are going to be bad consequences unavoidably, and that is extremely difficult to decide. And that is the kind of situation Arjuna is in. If he fights, his venerable elders are going to be killed. His dynasty is going to be destroyed. Now, if he doesn't fight, it's unlikely that the war is going to stop. If he decides he will not going to fight, it's maybe Yudhishthir is in two minds. Yudhishthir may not agree. May also say, I won't want to fight. Fight. But Bhima is not going to agree. So, without Arjuna fighting, the war is still going to go on. And it's quite likely the war is going to be much more terrible, isn't it? And if any of Arjuna's family is killed, Yudhishthira is killed, Bhima is killed, Nakula, Sahadeva are killed, and Arjuna won't be able to live with himself. I could have protected them, and I didn't. So when a person has no good choice, at that time, it's extremely difficult to decide what to do. We have this war going on in Israel right now, Israel and Hamas. So we have devotees who were in the reserve forces, both men and women, and they have to go and fight because Israel is in many ways for existential crisis. So initially, I was talking with a devotee from Israel just a couple of days ago, and he was telling that initially, we just had to fight. We had to fight. We had to find those who had attacked or killed innocent people. But he says that now we're just attacking and destroying Gaza. He says, yes, we want to find the terrorists, we want to root out the terrorists. But how many civilians are going to be affected by it? And how long can this go on? So he said, I'm conflicted. He said, he said, the way Arjuna was feeling, I'm feeling, I wish there were Krishna telling me what I could do. It's not because it's if you don't go further, maybe they will attack again in the future. But if you go further, how much further? How much? So I'm not taking a political stand over here in that it's very polarizing conflict. But I'm just trying to say that this kind of conflict that Arjuna is facing is not something which only happened thousands of years ago. It is either side. It's it's if you keep fighting, you're hurting civilians. If you stop fighting, maybe tomorrow your own civilians will be hurt again. Because if the opposite terrorists are not weeded out, so where do you stop? So these are very complex issues. And I told him that, see, even when Krishna was there with Arjuna, it was not that Krishna was on a moment to moment guide basis, micro controlling Arjuna. It was not that before every arrow that Arjuna shot, Krishna, should I shoot this? No. Arjuna was trusted by Krishna. It was only when some major decisions were to be made, when some strategic moves were to be made, more Krishna was guiding him. So ultimately, the Bhagavad Gita is not telling us that we should outsource our decision making to someone else, not even to God. Yes, we connect ourselves with God, but it is for us to take decisions. And if we are connected with God, then there is a greater chance that we will be doing God's will. This is the overall discussion of the Gita. So now let's look at it. So the first verse in the Chaturshloki Gita, what is it? Let's recite it together. Aham, okay, what happened here? Yeah. Aham sarvasya prabhavo mattah sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha. So here Krishna is telling two main points. That first part is knowledge. Knowledge of Krishna's position. What is Krishna's position? He's the source of everything. He is the sustainer of everything. Aham sarvasya prabhava means everything has come from him. Mattah sarvam pravartati means everything exists within me. So some people, especially some scientifically minded people, have this idea called deism. Deism means God may be the creator, but he is not the controller. That their idea is like, if we have a clock, so this clock was manufactured by someone. The clock wouldn't have come without the designer. But the manufacturer is not controlling the clock now, isn't it? The clock is working simply according to its mechanisms. So, actually, what they say is that like that, God created the universe, but the universe is now only working according to its laws. So, God is the creator, but not the controller. But this idea itself is wrong. Krishna is saying, everything has come from me and everything is also sustained within me. And now, if this knowledge is there, what should happen by this knowledge? That iti matva, if you understand this, bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha. This knowledge of Krishna's position should actually lead to a change in our disposition. And what is the change in our disposition? That is, there is wholehearted devotion. Buddha bhava samanvitaha. So it's like this kind of knowledge has to be transformational. Say somebody is having a big financial crisis and you tell them that, your grandfather has buried a big treasure in your backyard. Okay, that's interesting information. And they just continue worrying about money. Well, if you really understood what I said, then immediately you will start digging up your backyard, isn't it? So, knowledge, if we truly understand Krishna is in charge, Krishna is the source of everything, Krishna is in charge of everything, then we would naturally want to connect with Krishna. So, if we hear there's a backyard treasure, then what we would do immediately? We would immediately start digging. So, if suppose somebody was sick and they came to know about a powerful cure, a potent cure for the medicine, potent curative medicine for the disease, then immediately what would they do? They would start searching for the medicine, isn't it? It's natural. Otherwise, you're not really understood what what has been spoken. So similarly, if we truly understand that Krishna is the source of everything, that Krishna is the person from whom we have come, then what that would mean is that we would want to become devoted to him. So how do we understand it? It's like if an orphan comes to know that actually their father, the parent, is a billionaire. Then immediately what do? You want to go back, return to the father, isn't it? That's what we would be doing. So if you understand Krishna is the source of everything, then the result of that, theoretically, we have all heard about this point. We are all parts of Krishna. Mamaivamsho jivaloke. Now, what does this mean? If I really understand that I'm a part of Krishna, what does it mean practically? Is that we all have parts in Krishna's plan. If we are all parts of Krishna, we all have parts in Krishna's plan. The world is sustained by Krishna. That means the world is moving according to Krishna's plan. And we are a part in Krishna's plan. So it's like somebody is a part of the Indian national cricket team. Well, then you have a part in the team, isn't it? It is not just a theoretical thing. So like that, then okay, then we should immediately want to know, what is my part? What does Krishna want me to do? So Buddha Bhava Samanvita, Krishna, you have included me in your plan, then I want to connect with you. Like if somebody has been selected in a team, then they would want to connect with the coach. They want to connect with the captain. Okay, what role do you want me to play? isn't it? Okay, I'm in the team, but I don't even talk with the coach. Even when the coach is talking with me, I don't listen to the coach. If the captain says something, I pay no attention. Then what is the point of, have you understood that you're a part of the team? Isn't it? So, like that, if we understand that we are say in the cricket team, then we would naturally want to connect with the leader, whoever it is. So, like that Buddha Bhava Samanvitaha will wholeheartedly connect with the leader who is Krishna. So, this is the foundational point. That whether it is adversity, atrocity, or agony, whatever be the kind of distress we are facing in our life, nothing is outside of Krishna's plan. So, Krishna, I am in this situation right now. What do you want me to do? I want to connect with you. I want to understand what your plan for me is. So this is the first point. So Krishna tells Arjuna, stop when he says Buddha Bhava Sapanvita. Stop looking here and there for solution to problems. Yes, we may have to look practically for resources, but for problem solving, whenever there is a problem solving, there are two aspects. We all need resources. Like I earlier said that if I'm sick, I need some medicine. That's resources. If you're feeling cold, maybe we need some warm clothes. Those are resources. But more important than the resource is the source. Both are important, but the well, this is a greater than sign. It may look like anything else. So much more important than the resource is the source. So okay, I want to connect with the source so that I will know what am I meant to do. Then I can find the appropriate resource. Okay. So, like if somebody's in a cricket team, okay, do you want a better bat? Do you want a better pad? Do you want better gloves? Okay, am I a bowler? Am I a wicket keeper? What is my role? Once we understand that, we can get the resources. Quite often, what we do is we focus much more on the resource. Oh, I have this problem. How am I going to solve this? But first, connect with the source. The problem is not outside the plan of Krishna. So, first connect with the source. That's the attraction. Attraction means, now it's interesting here, Krishna is saying Buddha Bhava Samanvita. That such people, they become wise and then they devote themselves to me. Sometimes people say, oh, love is natural, devotion is natural. Like sometimes invite people to come to the temple. He says, when I feel the bhav, then I will come. Yeah. The problem is there is a abhav of bhav. Isn't it? So here, Krishna is not, when we are saying attraction here, it can be an emotion, but attraction can also be a decision. What do you mean by decision? That if I understand that this particular doctor has the cure for the disease I am suffering, then I don't have to fall in love with the doctor to go to the doctor. Isn't it? I can be attracted toward the doctor because the doctor has something of value for me. So we could say emotion is a function of the mind. The decision can be a function of the intelligence. So here Krishna is saying, if you understand that I am in charge, then you will want to connect with me so that you know what you are meant to do. So it's Buddha Bhava Samanvita. Then after that, once that has been done, what is the second A? I talked about 4 A's. Yeah, if you can remember it, that's great. It's nice memory. So as attraction leads to association. So let's look at this verse. Macchitta madgata prana bodhayantah parasparam kathayantascha mam nityam tushyanti charamanti cha. So here, Krishna is telling that if you want to connect with me, that connection with me is developed by associating with those who are connected with me. Machitta madgata prana. That machitta, it just doesn't mean think about me. That's one meaning. But actually, Machitta Prabhupada also translates it here in other places that their thoughts reside in me or dwell in me. That means that Krishna is saying that Krishna is our home. Home, you could say more of a mental home or a home for our thoughts. Like we have a home, we may go out for various things. We have to go buy grocery, we have to go for a job, we have to go for some social function. But then we come back home. Like that, a devotee's thoughts may go in many directions. Practically in the world, when we have to function, we have to think about those things. But as soon as those things are done, our thoughts come back home to Krishna. So, in one sense, we all have our attachments. Now, our attachments basically are like our mental home. Means whatever we are attached to, that is what our thoughts go towards. So that's another way to understand what am I attached to. One way to understand is what do I think of when I have nothing to think of. So we all say if we're driving a car, it's a crowded road. Then you have to think about the traffic. But if you are on an expressway, there's a clear pathway, you don't really need to pay much attention to the traffic. And where do our thoughts go? So what do we think of when we have nothing to think of? That is a good way to understand our attachments. And for a devotee, that default place for the thoughts is Krishna. When we have nothing to think of, we immediately think of Krishna. We bring our thoughts back to it. We recite some verses, we sing some songs, we chant the Mahamantra, we read Shastra, we think about Krishna. So so Krishna is saying, Machitta Madgata Prana. It's not just think about me. The life is devoted to me. If we are thinking about something and then we never do anything about it. Some people say that, uh, I think about God 24 hours a day. Well, but, how often do you go to temple? Once in 24 years. If we are thinking about something, naturally that will be reflected in our actions. So, Machitta Madgata Prana. And then after that, the key is Bodhayanta Parasparam. So, devotion, Krishna says, it is seen into three ways. There are thoughts, our actions, and our words. In fact, these three are the Vaishnava sannyasis carry a tridanda. So that is the body, mind, and words. All three are meant to be devoted to Krishna. So Krishna is saying this is the characteristic of my devotees, that their devotion is seen through their connection with me by their thoughts. So if we consider Krishna is here, the thoughts are going toward Krishna, the actions are going toward Krishna, the words are going toward Krishna. So now why does this matter? We're talking about decision making. So when we face difficulties, if we have the association of wise and supportive devotees, then we understand that I am not alone. That yes, I'm struggling, I may be suffering, but everyone goes through difficult times. And especially if we talk with realized devotees, then they will tell about how they went through difficulties and how Krishna eventually brought them to a better place. how Krishna's plan eventually works out. It is that, see, there is a fundamental difference. So this bodhayantaha parasparam, the word bodhayanta is very interesting over here, because the previous verse had already said Buddha. Now Buddha means enlightened. So if somebody is enlightened, why do they need to be enlightened again? If they are already enlightened, then why do they need to be enlightened by others? So the point is, life is complex. Life is confusing. And even when a devotee knows that Krishna is God, Krishna is in charge, but still, what does Krishna want me to do right now? How does Krishna want me to serve? So a devotee is enlightened means a devotee is fixed in purpose. Fixed in purpose means, Krishna, I want to serve you. My life is meant for your service. In that, a devotee is fixed. But just because a devotee is fixed in that does not necessarily mean that devotee may not always be clear about process. That may or may not happen, because the world is a complex place. See, Prabhupada was fixed in the fact that he wanted to share Krishna Bhakti. That was the mission of his life. But when Prabhupada comes to America, in the Markine Bhagavad Dharma song, he says, Ache kichu karya tabe ei anumane. My anuman. Anuman means guess. My guess is, Krishna, you must have brought me here for some purpose. So Prabhupada himself said, when he landed on the Boston, in the American coastline, he said, I didn't know whether to turn left or right. So it is not that just because Prabhupada was a pure devotee, there's like a continuous hotline between him and Krishna. And Krishna was saying, now turn left, now turn right, now talk with this person, now stop talking with this person. It is not like that. Even when somebody is a pure devotee, how exactly we are meant to serve, that is something which has to be worked on. So Prabhupada was trying to preach when he was a grahastha, and his Guru Maharaj came in his dream and said, take sannyas. And then his godbrother also said, yes, that's what you should do. So when Prabhupada was businessman before that, he was facing repeated difficulties. And then his godbrother, Prabhupada read, Yasyaham Anugranami. His godbrother said, yes, this is what Krishna's special mercy is coming in your life. So when he is enlightened by others means, it is often in the association of devotees that we get to make sense of our life. Okay, what is Krishna doing in my life? What does Krishna want me to do right now? How does Krishna want me to serve? So it is that bodhayantaha parasparam. When we see, it is not that here, it's interesting. Krishna is not talking here about going to a guru and getting instruction. That he has already talked about in 434. But Krishna is talking about a different situation over here. He's talking about a situation where when we are facing difficulties and we can share our hearts with like-minded devotees, and then they share about the kind of difficulties that they have faced, then what happens is, basically, we feel enlightened. What is the enlightenment? First is, we are not alone. Sometimes we may be practicing bhakti and still we may feel lost. Lost means, Krishna, I'm serving you, but how exactly do you want me to serve you? If you're feeling lost, yes, everybody feels lost at times. Even when they are serving Krishna, how exactly we are serving Krishna? So the association of devotees, we are not alone. And then we start understanding that Krishna's plan works in due time. In his time, we can say. Krishna's plan doesn't work according to our time. In his time, now Prabhupada was trying for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. Nothing was working. But Prabhupada kept trying, kept trying. So in the association of devotees, we get encouragement. It's enlightenment, but enlightenment and encouragement. Yes, let me persevere. That's why we all need this close association. This guhyam akhyati pruchyati. That's what this verse is talking about over here. Guhyam akhyati pruchyati doesn't just mean, that, oh, Krishna came in my dream yesterday. Well, okay, if Krishna came in your dream, wonderful, that's wonderful. But we all will have challenges in our life, even in our service to Krishna. So we need close devotees who will not be judging us, who will be understanding us. Sometimes even a devotee can go through great difficulty. Or sometimes devotee feels, why is Krishna doing this to me in my life? Now, at that time, if we go to some devotee and that devotee says, how dare you question Krishna's plan? Krishna is perfect. Well, the only result will become our mouth and our heart will perfectly shut down. I'm never going to talk with this devotee again. I'm never going to express any vulnerability to this devotee. So, in general, it happens that many times people come to spirituality because these spiritual groups or they start because they feel lonely. They want a sense of belonging. And if we come are part of a devotee community, that gives a sense of belonging. But what sociologists have found is if in religious organizations which have very high moral standards, where the expectations from the seekers are very high, actually in such organizations, sometimes people feel more lonely than if they were just materialistic people. Because while they may be a part of a community, but there's always this fear, I'll be judged. What will people think about me? Now, even devotees can have doubts, even devotees can have fears, even devotees can have deep questions. When Draupadi went through that whole trauma of being disrobed, of attempted to be disrobed, then after that, when Krishna came to meet her in the forest, and Draupadi asked Krishna, I deserved your protection. He says, why didn't you come? He says, I called you. I'm your devotee. I'm your friend. I'm your relative. I needed you. Why didn't you come? Now, Krishna is God, but he doesn't take a godlike attitude over there. And say, who do you think you are? You don't know my plan is perfect? No, Krishna says that, Dwarka had been attacked by Shalva, and I was there defending Dwarka. I didn't know about the gambling match at all. As soon as I came to know, I came here. He says, I've heard about how you stayed firm in dharma, even amid such adharma. You tried to remind everyone else of dharma. He says, although what was done to you was horrible, but what you did was wonderful, was glorious. He says, your tears will not be in vain. So Krishna took a very human-like approach and reassured her. So the point is that it is in such association that we get reassurance, we get calmness, we get clarity. Okay, what am I meant to do? How am I meant to go ahead in my life? So that is advantage attraction. Yes, Krishna is my North Pole. Krishna is the person with whom I want to stay connected. But how exactly I do that? Through association, we get inspiration. Sometimes we get illumination. Okay, maybe I can try this. Maybe I can try that. Hmm. So now after that, there's the verse which we recited. Let's recite it together now. Tesham satatayuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam tadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayanti te. So here the key word is, I'll link these two verses together, 10th and 11th, that bhajatam Priti Purvakam. Priti Purvakam. This is important, that the devotion that we should be performing should be out of affection. Prabhupada says in the purport, we should do some work for Krishna, and that work should be done out of love. So it's important that this bhajatam, is basically rendering some service, doing some bhakti. It is with affection, Priti Purvakam. Krishna doesn't want it with fear, not with guilt. It's like we want to wake up in the morning. Why? If I don't wake up, people will chastise me. Well, if we are not reading Prabhupada's books, Prabhupada stayed awake to write books. Why are you so shameless? Can't you spend a little time to read Prabhupada's books? Every religious organization is expert at inducing guilt in its followers, and through guilt, bringing compliance. Now at one level, it's okay initially, but that should not be the sustainable level. It's if we should read Prabhupada's books because we feel inspired by Prabhupada's sacrifice, not that we are guilted into doing it. So, if sometimes, sometimes we may just do bhakti, like yesterday I said, we may do it out of helplessness. I can't do anything, so let us pray to God now. Well, that is also okay. At one level, you can say, these are not bad. Yena kena prakarena. Somehow or the other. But this is not going to lead to a very sweet relationship. It's like sometimes when I'm staying at devotees' homes, when I'm in America or Australia, the devotees, maybe their children are not interested in bhakti, and they want their child to talk with me. Now, as soon as I see a child, it's sometimes very easy to make out. That person wants to be anywhere except with you. So now, I try to break ice. I try to talk with them about. I generally at such times I see they're not interested. Then I don't talk about Krishna at all. I try to find out their interests, and then see how their interests can be connected with Krishna. But the point is, generally, if we are talking with someone and that person shows no interest in talking with us, then it's not a very pleasant interaction. So similarly, if we are practicing bhakti, but there is no preeti, we just don't want to practice bhakti, but somehow because of guilt, there's psychological pressure or social pressure, or this or that, we are practicing bhakti, then that will not be very pleasing. It will not be pleasing to Krishna, and more importantly, if it is not bhajatam preeti purvakam, then that dadami buddhi yogam tam will not come. Because what? See, when Krishna says that preeti purvakam, that is we are opening our heart to Krishna. When our heart is open, then Krishna's wisdom will emerge in that heart. If our heart is closed, then whatever Krishna wants to guide us, that buddhi yoga will not come. And that's why now how do we have this preeti purvakam? They're having devotion with affection. So the thing is, it's not easy, especially when we are going through difficulties. It's natural. Why is this happening to me? Oh, why is my health going down? Why did I lose my job? Why is my relationship crumbling? Why is this happening? So it's very difficult to have affection or appreciation at that time. So here it's important to understand the difference. This appreciation is something like gratitude. When we appreciate something, gratitude is there. So now, when we're talking about gratitude, see, there's being grateful. This is a key difference. It is grateful for all situations and grateful in all situations. Now, this is all for all situations is almost humanly impossible. Because in life, terrible things do happen. But we can be grateful in all situations. Yeah, this bad thing has happened, but there are so many other good things that have happened in my life. And because of those good things, I'm grateful. I got this. I lost my job. That's terrible. Now, but I'm grateful that I have some good education. I have got some good experience. I have got some friend circle. I've got some savings. I've got some contacts. I've got basic good health. So I have all these resources, and for them I'm grateful. So if we try to be grateful for a difficult situation, we are actually putting ourselves in even more difficult situation. It's not going to work. But we can be grateful in all situations, even if it is not for all situations. Many of you may notice that I need crutches for walking. I had polio when I was 1. So as I travel across the world, I am often invited to talk at various places. So sometimes there are organizations of people with special needs. So sometimes the people, somebody has lost a limb, somebody lost an eye, somebody lost a ear. It's quite painful to see all that. Now, when I talk with people or after talks, after that, when I talk with them one to one, I see that so many of them are are fighting battles that are already lost. That means somebody say lost a leg in an accident maybe 1 year ago, and still there is resentment. And, why did this happen to me? Why did this happen to me? It's like now we all have to fight battles, but if we are fighting battles that are already lost and lost long ago, like somebody is lamenting, oh, why did India get partitioned? Well, India got partitioned 70 years ago. Now, oh, okay, what can you do about it? So we have to live with that reality. So there's no use fighting battle that are already lost. This is what happens when there is resentment. So I look back at my life. I don't remember ever feeling resentful. Of course, I have one advantage that I got polio when I was 1. So I don't remember walking normally. So in that sense, for somebody who was walking, say, moving normally and then they got some disability, it's more difficult. But still, I don't remember that at all. So I look back at that, and it is that I remember when I was maybe 3 or some 2.5, 3, some neighbors or relatives had come to our home, and they were consoling my mother, saying that, oh, it's so sad that your son got polio. And I remember my mother's voice. She said that, whatever he lacks physically, God will provide him intellectually. Wow. I don't I don't know what my mother saw at that time. I was probably 2 or 3, what intellectual ability I had shown. But probably Krishna spoke through her at that time. Somehow because of that, I didn't identify with my physical side too much. I couldn't play like other kids. But Krishna had given me a good brain. And I identified with my intellectual side. I could study, I could learn. And that's what I got. I got energy, I got joy from that. So that's one statement of my mother made a big difference. So it's not that I was grateful for my disability, but I was grateful even in that disability because I had something else in my life. So we can't be grateful for all situations, but we can be grateful in all situations. So thanks to my parents' upbringing, basically, is I need crutches for walking. But for me, the crutches are like glasses. I can't see without my glasses. But many of you are also using glasses. It's not that you feel sorry for yourself. Oh, I have to use glasses. I have to use glasses. Okay, put on glasses and move on with life. Isn't it? That we have glasses doesn't become a big part of our identity. Mhm. So similarly, I put on my glasses, pick up my crutches and start walking. It's not a big part of my own mental, it doesn't occupy too much of my mental space. So the point I'm making here is that we all, so I do never really remember feeling angry with life or angry with God. There are many things I feel angry about. Not that I'm free from anger and resentment, but about this, I don't feel angry or anger or resentment. So for each one of us, there are many things we can complain about. And yes, I'm not saying that all things are small. There are big things which are wrong in our life. But essential part of being a devotee is that we need to see what Krishna is doing right in our life, not what Krishna is doing wrong in our life, or even what is going wrong in our life. So, if we look for, I said, be grateful in all situations. How do we do that? Look for what is right in our life. It is natural that we will see what is wrong, but it is when we look for what is right. And it's not just, it is not right automatically. Look for what Krishna has done right in our life, what Krishna is doing right in our life. And if we just have that attitude, we will see that there are so many ways in which Krishna is helping us. Krishna is supporting us. Krishna is guiding us. This is the Bhajatam Priti Purvakam. If you can maintain that little appreciation. See, Prabhupada, when he came to America, he, from a material perspective, it's a terrible situation to be in. He had no money, he had no contacts, he had no institutional backing. And on top of that, the only material resource he had was his body. And that body had been hit by 2 heart attacks. So there was nothing practically. And yet the first line in that song is Boro Krupa Koile Krishna. So what is the Krupa? How is Prabhupada being grateful? So generally speaking, even when we want to do service, there are 2 things. There is the opportunity for service and there is the facility for service. So Prabhupada had zero facility for service. And yet, now Prabhupada was not resentful. Now, Krishna, I've got nothing over here. Why? What am I going to do? But Prabhupada was grateful for the opportunity. So my Guru Maharaj wanted me to preach in the Western world. At last, at least at the end of my life, I have got that opportunity. And for that opportunity, I am grateful. So that is Bhajatam Priti Purvakam. So it is both in association we get this appreciation, but it's our responsibility also to try to have appreciation for what is right in our life. And if we do not have such appreciation, our devotion will be very superficial. We were chanting Hare Krishna. We're chanting Hare Krishna. Oh, why did this person speak like this? Why does this person doesn't listen to me? Why is this not happening? Why is it like that? Will our devotion will not be pleasing to Krishna, and our devotion will not be enriching for our own heart. So it's important that we cultivate some level of gratitude. Bhajata Priti Purvakam. And that brings us to the last part. The last verses. Teshamevanukampartham aham ajnanajam tamaha nashayamyatma bhavastho jnanadipena bhasvataha. So Krishna says, for such people, Tesham Anukampa. I do the Anukampa. And he's saying that even if there is darkness in the heart, the darkness may be because of our own past karma, because of our own conditionings, because of our own misconceptions. But Krishna says, I will remove them. Jnana Deepena Bhasvataha, with the torchlight of knowledge. So it is Krishna who will give us absorption. Absorption means what? That Krishna, this is how I can serve you. Let me do this one thing as well as I can. So absorption means that, like Prabhupada, even when he was talking with a person who was stoned on drugs, that person has only little consciousness. And yet Prabhupada would talk with that person as if that person was the most important person. Because that person had some interest in Krishna. So absorption means once we have that Bhajatam Priti Purvakam, then Krishna will give us Buddhi Yoga. Now, Buddhi Yoga is a compound word. It can mean many things. But when simply it is Buddhi to do yoga. That means the intelligence to serve Krishna. Yoga is basically connecting with Krishna through bhakti, that is serving Krishna. So, Krishna, how do you want me to serve you right now? Krishna will give us intelligence. That intelligence does not have to come in the form of some sudden epiphany. Suddenly, some Krishna comes in front of us and tells us, do this. It is not, so we see some mystical light. It doesn't have to come like that. It can come in ordinary ways. Prabhupada, when he was in America, he tried one thing, he tried another thing, he tried another thing. And some things worked, some things didn't work. And eventually, some things worked dramatically well. So, basically, here the intelligence to serve Krishna means that, okay, this is where I am. How can I serve Krishna right now? See, for all of us, we, as I said, we are, we all have a part in Krishna's plan. But quite often what happens is that we have an aspiration. We want will I try to give the best class that I can give? If we just start doing our part better, small steps. Suppose I'm sick. Sometimes some people fall sick and they start complaining and blaming and criticizing everyone. They are sick and they make people sick of them. Isn't it? Now it's, yeah, you are sick, you are in pain, you are in difficulty, but others are also in difficulty, isn't it? So, okay, but what do you expect me to do? Well, okay, you may be sick, but be polite, be kind, be grateful. Anybody who does something for you, to just be kind to them. So if we do, can I just do something better? Sometimes we may be in a relationship. Nothing seems to be working, whatever we do. Okay. Can I just be a little more polite? But that person is not polite with me. Well, okay. We're not saying we let that person walk over us. We're not saying that let that person abuse us. But if we just look at our life right now, see, when we say, I'll conclude with two last points. When we say service attitude or bhakti, it doesn't just mean coming to a temple and doing sadhana and doing puja and doing seva. Yes, that's important, no doubt. But service attitude is meant to permeate our entire life. And if we understand Krishna is Suhrudam Sarva Bhutana, Krishna is my well-wisher, Krishna is the well-wisher of people around me also. Then, if we understand this, then the question comes up that Krishna wants things to be better. He's the well-wisher of everyone. That means he doesn't want anyone to suffer. So, if Krishna wants things to be better because he's the well-wisher of everyone, then service attitude can mean simply the question, how can I make things better? How can I serve Krishna can be translated into how can I make things better? How can I contribute to making things better? If we come to the temple and temple is unclean, say, oh, why is the temple unclean? Okay, we take up a broom and try to clean it. We may not be able to fix everything, but can we do something? And what happens is that as soon as we start taking even small steps to do something better, what happens is our own consciousness becomes better. The condition may or may not improve. Like if I am sick and I'm in pain and I yell at someone, that person will feel hurt, and I am also not going to feel very happy about that. But if you just speak a little politely, still kindly with someone, they feel warmed and we also feel better. So even if our attempt to make things better doesn't make things better, it will make us better. The attempt to make things better in a mood of, we're not saying simply material improvement over here. We're talking about we are the service of Krishna. In a mood of service to Krishna, if we try to make things better, even if things don't become better, we will become better by that. Because our consciousness will become connected with Krishna. And this way, that Anukampa, Krishna's mercy, will destroy the darkness within our heart. Just by that attempt to serve Krishna, we will connect with Krishna and our heart will become enriched. So, Krishna is telling Arjuna uh, that the darkness that is there in your heart right now, I will remove it. You just try to serve me. Don't be resentful. Don't be frustrated. Just try to have a service attitude. And that is what Arjuna does eventually. So the world is a tough place. There's no doubt about it. But greater than the world's power to hurt is Krishna's power to heal. Greater than the world's power to hurt is Krishna's power to heal. So rather than focusing on the world and how much it is hurting us, we turn toward Krishna and we try to act in a mood of service to Krishna. And we'll find Krishna's healing potency manifesting in our life illuminating our head and enriching our heart. So I'll summarize what I discussed today. We talked about first, I talked about 5 main points. First was, I talked about the significance of the Chaturshloki. Why is it considered so important? Because in one sense, it is the end of the Gita in terms of Krishna's speech. After that, there are miscellaneous questions. So these 4 verses led Arjuna to realize that Param Brahma Param Dhama. So they're very potent. And those 4 verses we try to understand in terms of decision making. When we want guidance for life, it is primarily for making decisions, especially decisions amid difficulties. We talk about 3 levels of difficulties: adversity, where something bad happens to us; atrocity, when something bad is done to us; and agony, when something bad has to be done by us. So how do we deal with it? We discussed in terms of the 4 verses. First is attraction, that we understand that Krishna is the source of everything, Krishna is in charge of everything. That means whatever is happening is within Krishna's plan. So we are parts of Krishna, that means we have parts within Krishna's plan. So the first thing we do is connect with Krishna. That attraction doesn't have to be necessarily natural, it can be intellectual. Yes, this doctor has a cure, this is the captain of the team I am in. I want to connect with them so that I can understand my part better. So attraction can be based on buddhi. And then next was 10.9 was association. That it is in association of those devotees for whom Krishna has become their mental home. Their body, mind, and words are devoted to Krishna. In that association, what happens is we start realizing I am not alone. Even everybody goes through hard times. Even great devotees have moments of confusion. A devotee may not be discouraged. A devotee may be fixed in the purpose of serving Krishna. But specifically how to serve, there can be confusion. And then we start, our faith is restored because yes, Krishna's plan does work out. If you look at devotees, they went through such difficulties, but eventually things worked out. So our faith is restored. And then we talked about in 10.10, appreciation. We can't be grateful for all situations, but grateful in all situations. Whatever be our situation, we need to look at what is Krishna doing right in my life. Krishna consciousness means to see how Krishna is blessing us. We may not be able to see a difficult situation as a blessing, but we can see that there are blessings in spite of that difficult situation. And I talked about how my mother guided me with respect to this. And the last was absorption. So absorption doesn't mean here necessarily we forget Krishna and forget the world and become absorbed in Krishna. It means we're absorbed in just playing our part better. We may have very little facility, but okay, we all have opportunity. In my situation, let me play my part better. Let me be a little kinder to others. Let me be a little more helpful to others. Let if I am a servant of Krishna and Krishna is the well-wisher of everyone, then service attitude to Krishna means that how can I make things better? And when we have that attempt to make things better, even if things don't become better, what will happen is we will become better by that. And that itself is a gain, an immense gain, in fact, an immeasurable gain. So, in this way, the Gita can guide and enrich each one of us in whatever situation we may be in. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Maybe we can have one question. Yeah, we'll try to have more time for question answers tomorrow, the last session. Yes, Prabhu.
Thank you very much for wonderful class, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, you mentioned that whenever we are going through a situation, we should try to understand Krishna's plan and be part of Krishna's plan. How to understand when we are in a situation, there are multiple options we have to take a decision. Out of that, how to understand what is really Krishna's plan? Because when we look at it, it looks everything is Krishna's plan, or
Well, my understanding is Krishna's plan is not necessarily like one line. It is not that if we make a wrong choice, then we are forever out of Krishna's plan. No, Krishna also wants us to use our free will. Krishna wants us to use our intelligence. So Krishna's plan is more like a direction than a specific line. So Krishna wants us to come closer to him. Like say, when Radharani is cooking for Krishna, is it that Krishna wants to micro control every single thing that Radharani cooks? So Radharani knows what Krishna likes, but there is also she also feels inspired. Now, this is what I would like to cook for Krishna. So Krishna is also pleased by that, isn't it? So we shouldn't be thinking that, oh, there is one line which is Krishna's plan, and if I'm not following this, then I'm out of Krishna's plan. It's not like that. It's life in many ways is an experiment. We we use our God-given intelligence. We consult with devotees. But even when we are consulting with devotees or we're consulting with our spiritual master, it is not that we are outsourcing the decision-making responsibility to the spiritual master. Yes, we take their inputs, but ultimately it's our decision. It's our life. Their inputs are extremely important. And in some areas, the spiritual master may give us direct instructions. But in most areas, the spiritual master doesn't want to and not want to micro control our life. That we have to take responsible decisions. So we use our intelligence and we make the best decision possible. And if that doesn't work out, then we change course. So it's not that it's a 1-0 kind of thing. Sometimes what is exactly Krishna's plan is also revealed gradually. Okay. So it's not a direct, it's not a line, it's a direction. And we discover by experimentation quite often. Consultation, experimentation, contemplation using our intelligence also. Okay.
thank you, Prabhuji.
Yes. You had a question, Banja? Okay. Okay, last question we'll quickly take. Yes, Mataji. There. Yeah, yourself.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Please accept my respectful obeisances. It was a very nice class. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. The question is not directly related to today's class, but it's more of so we know that Krishna says that someone who's on the path of, I mean, whoever does devotional service, it's not that it's completely lost if they don't perfect it in this life. They're given the opportunity by taking birth in a pious family or a Vaishnava family, right? But we also see the example of Jada Bharata, where depending upon what they remember at the end of their life, birth in the next life is kind of determined by that. So how can we really understand?
Okay, good question. So if it is said that, okay, this is not working. Okay, if it is said that uh, we will never lose our spirituality in future lives, then how did Jarbharat become a deer? See, when we have one principle, that principle is true, but that doesn't mean that principle alone is true. There are other principles that are also important. That's what makes life complex. That, like in law also, you might have a particular law. If somebody, you shoot somebody, you'll be punished. But why did you shoot? Did you shoot out of anger? Did you shoot out of self-defense? So much context comes in. So the point is that there are two principles. One is whatever spirituality we practice will never be lost. The other principle is whatever we remember at the time of death, that is indicative of what we are most attached to. And that's what we will attain after death. So now in the case of Jad Bharat, both these principles are applicable. So at a material level, the principle that applied was, okay, he remembered a deer at the time of death, he became a deer. But the spiritual principle was not lost. He was in a deer's body biologically, but he was not in a deer's consciousness. As a deer also, he had spiritual attraction. And that's why he didn't just graze for the greenest grass. He stayed near the sages, and he loved to hear those Vedic mantras the sages would chant. So that spiritual attraction remained. But actions do have consequences. And one consequence of that was, because he was attached to a deer, he got the body of a deer. So the material principle and the spiritual principle. It is not that the spiritual principle overrides the material principle. So somebody has diabetes and they are given a big plate full of halwa, this Mahaprasad. Well, oh, this is Mahaprasad, how can I say no to it? Well, okay, you take Mahaprasad, it will purify you. Yes, but it will purify at the spiritual level. At a biological level, it may cause the diabetes to shoot up, isn't it? So, we may just take a little morsel or something like that. We can take some other prasad. So, spiritual principles don't grant us immunity to material rules. Spiritual principles are true, but material rules are also true in this world. So, we need to be also mindful of material rules also when we are practicing bhakti. Okay. Thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavadgita ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki, Nitai Gaur Premanande.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Switch off that mic. Hare Krishna. So, switch off that mic. So, very grateful to Chaitanya Charan Prabhu for this wonderful class. So, it will continue tomorrow morning as well. Tomorrow morning class will be from 10 o'clock till 12 o'clock. So, 2 hours. So, we'll have good time for question answers as well. So, please come tomorrow. Today evening, volume high. Today evening, there is youth festival called Jagrati Youth Festival. So you can invite all the youths of the congregation to come for this session. Already 250 have registered for this class. So we can, if you know any youths in the contact, you can please tell them. It's a nice opportunity to connect them. And there is a nice diary of Prabhuji called Gita Daily. Enrich your day with inspiring thoughts. It has got many quotes on day-wise quotes. So it's good for our own contemplation. Like for example, just randomly, satisfaction comes by knowing ourselves, not by making ourselves known. Satisfaction comes by knowing ourselves, not by making ourselves known. So Bhagavad Gita 6.20. So like there's a many thought-provoking things. You can use it for your own reflections, and also it is a nice preaching tool also, which you can share with others. Hare Krishna. It's there on the stall.